I'm Lorne Epstein. Welcome back to another episode of the Lorne Epstein Show. We are here at Unleash, which is an HR technology conference in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Aria Hotel, in the bowels of the Aria Hotel. And we've been having amazing conversations with people about technology and HR and trust and bots and artificial intelligence and all this stuff. And so I want to just kind of read something that was attached to our guest here. We have a very special guest. So we're living in a world where 4 out of every 5 companies are embarking upon digital transformation. That affects a huge number of people. However, there's a big gap between what digital transformation actually is and what most businesses think it is. An MIT Sloan and Capgemini study data-backed what most companies are already going through: failure to adopt a digital culture. People's willingness to adopt and adapt to new technology depends on their desire to have something that makes their lives easier. What's in it for them personally when it comes to a successful digital transformation? People rather than technology may be the biggest inhibitor. They can challenge and even impede technology adoption on multiple levels. And that was something that our guest, Dr. Donna Murdoch, is with us today. Dr. How do you like to be called? Doctor or?
Donna.
Donna. Did your mother say, "Oh, I got a doctor"? No.
No, that's my own.
That's your own.
I'm glad I got there, but it's Donna.
Well, welcome to the show. Let me introduce you
Thank
properly.
you.
Donna is the global head of learning technology and innovation for S&P Global Ratings, where she leads a team of learning designers, trainers, and instructional designers. Her team produces innovative, engaging, state-of-the-art learning experiences for her organization's employees. Donna has held learning and transformational positions with Philips in Amsterdam, Adyen, is it Aden?
A-D-Y-E-N, Adyen.
UNICEF, and Apollo Education Group. Donna is also an adjunct professor at Columbia University, which we share in common because I lived up that way, and University of Pennsylvania, and is heavily involved as a mentor in the startup community. Donna, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So that was a mouthful, and I think bottom line is people are the problem. Donna nods her head.
Yes. Well, it's funny because everyone thinks in terms of digital transformation as let's do everything in a digital way. Let's get the software. Let's do projects. In fact, that's the history of digital transformation up to now. It's very project oriented. We'll have this great software program and it's going to cost us hundreds of millions of dollars and that's going to change everything. But they're not changing the people who are going to utilize the technology or utilize the change. And often that leads to failure because for some reason, while people have no problem with their iPhones and their smart light bulbs at home and their DVRs or whatever it is, when they get to work, it's like a whole different story. But it's not exactly, the user interface isn't exactly as friendly as an iPhone or whatever, so it's not entirely their fault, but there's a different mindset, and it's all about shifting mindsets, really, and growth mindset.
Oh, that's a great place to start. So, and that's a good point. At home or in our community, like people have adapted to some really amazing technology. We have self-driving cars, we have all sorts of technology in the home place with Nest thermostats, and on and on and on. iPads, people don't seem to have a problem with that. Why is there a problem at work with adopting technology?
Well, usually at work, the focus is on the functionality and not the user design, the experience of the user. That's not one company, that's every company. And they think in terms of what do we need to do, how will we input data faster, structure data better, utilize the end product, make it so that it's more automated, whatever it is. We don't believe that all of these new technologies are going to replace people. We believe they're going to augment people. You're still going to need the human element. No matter how much you're able to automate something, you're still going to need human common sense or human supervision of some sort because it's only as good as the data you put in, and ultimately that comes back to the people, at least for the foreseeable future. We're going to be working with data that's been accumulated by people. And so we think about what we can do with that technology. We don't think about what's in it for the people to learn how to use the technology. There's where we just talked about the what tends to be an obstacle sometimes. I call it WIFM, what's in it for me. People change because they see that their own life will get better. Either their job will get better and easier, they can focus on the more cognitive, high-quality thinking.
So we've talked about this a lot in the last few shows about the why. It seems like what you're saying is that when the company goes, well, we need to do something, and the leadership sees some software, they see at the top level, they don't see everything, but they see software will fix it. And instead of maybe engaging the users to say, hey, why do we need this? What is going on? What could we actually solve? They just go get software, plug it in, and there's a disconnect.
And then the training
happens. Is that right?
Yes.
And then the training happens,
right.
which is the indoctrination of people into the system that never really wanted it in the first place. And so they never really were part of the design process, so it may not work correctly for the system because they're in the system. Do I have this kind of right? Maybe a little
Absolutely,
right?
especially if
and then we
there's
have
no
complete failure.
And especially if the company is successful at the moment and nobody sees the reason. A lot of it is just being on the offensive. Like, I know there's going to be some kind of something that's going to disrupt this organization at some point. Thank you so much.
My producer, Andy, just brought you a Diet Coke.
Thank you.
Isn't she awesome?
Yes, she's
Everyone,
so wonderful.
big hand for Andy.
Yay, big hand for caffeine and Andy. Anyway, we think in terms of digital transformations. Oh, we're going to now all the paper we have is going to be digital now, and we're going to have these software programs, and we're going to do all these things, but we don't think about the actual experience of the employee using that.
So let's break it down. So step one.
Step one, needs analysis. What do we need?
Right, and so who should be involved in the needs analysis?
It depends on what you're trying to. There's usually, disruptions coming. And
Can we say everyone would be involved?
We can say everybody should be involved to some
Everyone who's
degree.
going to touch this software
Right.
should be involved in the needs analysis.
Right.
And a needs analysis looks like what?
It generally asks the questions that say where are the gaps, what are other people doing. It requires peripheral vision beyond your organization.
Right.
You need to see what's
so
going
we're doing
on out
X,
there.
and out there people are doing Y,
Right.
and here's the gaps between the two. And if we filled those gaps, then we'd have this much better performance, this much better productivity, on and on and on.
And we have to be ready. We have to be ready for whatever it is because we don't know what it is. We don't know what's going to hit us that's going to be the disruptor. I happen to be in a business that there's only really 3 major ratings agencies, and we're the biggest one. And we don't have any issues right now. We're doing great. But you can't just sit there and wait until somebody comes in and has something else that...
So proactively, a needs analysis should be done for business units.
Exactly.
Right. But we're talking, I think, fair to say, people listening, most of us work at companies where software may be bought this year. Technology may be bought this year. In Arlington County, where I live, they bought iPads for the students. And they started with, I think, like the 5th or 6th graders, and then they added. And the students it's horrible. It's a horrible experience. The students lose them, and they have no consequences. They use them as playthings. They're not really learning tools. And it's a boondoggle for Apple. Like, why do they have to be apples? And I would believe that the students and the parents and the teachers were not involved in the needs analysis on that particular purchase.
Most likely not. It's just a thing everybody's doing. They went to ISTE, which is the International Society for Technology and Education. They said, we're all doing this. We have these new ISTE standards of digital literacy, and here's how you can make sure everybody has them.
Right. And, all right, so needs analysis, one.
So, and with that needs analysis, you need to identify your skill gaps.
Yeah.
Because and there's some companies such as Burning Glass. And Burning Glass goes out and collects the data from all the job descriptions that they find everywhere. And they see these are the most commonly, if you look at most any company's job, they're looking for machine learning people, they're looking for artificial intelligence people, they're looking for, regardless of company, regardless of sector, this is what's being sought after. Carnegie Mellon was just complaining this week that they're taking all their professors and they're hiring at these companies, they're taking them away. And they're saying you're taking away the seeds that grow all this new talent. How are you going to make more? So it's really an issue because everybody wants these people, And so you have to do an assessment an inventory of your own employees, and there's two choices. Either you can upskill who's there, which is upskilling is a new hiring. You definitely want to do that if you can.
But getting back to if we're going to do this technology change, the first step would be doing a needs analysis of our business. So now I have this needs analysis, and now what do I do next if I want to bring in new technology?
Now you're going to figure out what are we doing. You're going to identify processes, projects, things like that seem there's redundancies. They seem
so now
to take
identify
longer
which things
than
would
they
actually
should.
get changed.
Yeah, what's taking us the most time? Does that
Right.
really need to take us the most time? Are we doing it repeatedly in different businesses in the company?
So map them.
Right.
So you have a map of, okay, we did this, and here are the 20 steps laid out. Bill does this, Bill does that, Bill does this, and this. And it takes 2 hours, and that's one process. And there's another process, and another process, another process.
And
now
often
you have a
Bill, Joe, Sam,
Right.
Andrea, and
Here's
Louise
handoffs.
are all doing the exact same thing.
Right.
They're just in different divisions. They don't even know they're all doing the same
Right.
thing.
So
you need
also
to
another
identify.
process that says everyone's got to be involved.
Right.
Everyone's got to have sign off on the needs analysis, and everyone's got to have sign off on this kind of laying out the processes.
Right.
And then what?
So once you've identified that, first of all...
I love this conversation because a lot of the conversations we've had today have been a little more theoretical. We're getting into the nuts and bolts.
Well, the nuts and bolts are that you said a lot of companies that I've been with, and I've also just been involved in. There's always this initiative, insert company one. So GE won. I'm not saying GE didn't do that. I don't think. But they all put one, and it's all about consolidation and putting everybody together and saying, we're not all these separate organizations. We're one company. When you look at that door that you walk in, there's one name above it, and we all get the paycheck from the same company. So why aren't we all doing things, consolidating our initiatives, figuring out where there's redundancies, and as opposed to saying, I'm in this department, I'm in this department, I'm in this department, and this is a Josh Burson thing, a Deloitte thing, we should have teams that are more specialized in terms of competencies, not the silos that they're in. So that's another transition that you need to go through, is identifying, these people are great at this, let's put them together and put them on this
project.
Right.
On the project of adding the new software.
Right. Whatever the software, it depends if it's their software
but
that applies to them.
It may uncover inefficiencies in where people are in the organization and how they're doing their jobs.
Absolutely.
And then you might need to decide whether or not you're going to realign people's reporting structures, where they sit, where they are in the organization, the value that they provide. So if there's too many people who are doing a great job, but they're all kind of redundant, and maybe we need to move.
Right. And
Okay,
maybe
so this
they
may
need
occur.
some new learning. They need some new learning that's going to make it possible for them to shift. Mm-hmm. We're very big right now on, and that's a whole different discussion, career opportunities within an organization, but maybe it's a lateral move. Maybe everybody isn't on a career path that goes up. Maybe lateral is what it has to be. So that's another, I see that happening in a lot of organizations, and ours included, that people are in this division, they see opportunity over here, and they want to go over here because they see that's probably the growth area, and I'm going to make sure I learn everything. And we make our learning open to everybody. It doesn't matter what you do. If you want to learn how to be a data analyst and you're something else, you can do all the learning for that and then apply for that role, saying I've done all the same learning, and make a lateral move so that you're more aligned with your interests.
Interesting. So then what would be the next step?
So after you have everybody on a project, please, I already filled mine up. After you have everybody on a project, you need to figure out there's a discovery process. Now we have everybody aligned who is on the same page, who's doing the same thing, who has the same need. Now what are we going to use as an organization? Are we buy or build conundrum, which I'm sure you've heard many times. Do we buy this off the shelf? Or is there something we need to build that's proprietary based on our business? And if you do that, that's a whole other adventure. But if you buy it off the shelf, it's also an adventure, but at least you have the support of whoever you bought it from.
Sure.
So
yeah, I think people are buying software more now than building their own. It seems like.
Tons of people are. There's the variety. I mean, walk out.
It's much easier to buy software than it is to build.
And we have catalogs and learning libraries forever. There's also, though, a whole market. We could, as a learning group, we could get, and we do have probably 6 or 7 great libraries of content, no matter what you want to do. But now we have to let people know that it's there. And even if you let them know it's there at the beginning, they don't always, we're going off on the learning track, because that's the track I tend to go on. But I know we're at an HR conference, but it's all under the same umbrella. You need to let them know it's there, and it's a continual marketing initiative.
You're listening to the Lorne Epstein Show. I'm your host, Lorne Epstein, here on 96.7 FM, Arlington, Virginia, reporting from the Convention Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. We'll be back in just a minute. Hi, my name's Lorne Epstein, and every week at 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock on Mondays, I talk about jobs and careers and the workplace. We've done shows on pot in the workplace, the salary secrecy laws, and how to write a resume. I'm inviting you to come on our show. If you're interested or have show ideas, you can give me a call at 240-876-0276 or email me at lorne@electriccow.com. Or you can go to our webpage at lorneepstein.com or our Facebook page, which is also Lorne Epstein, and our Mixcloud account is, and you guessed it, Lorne Epstein at mixcloud.com. Hope to see you here on the show soon. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Lorne Epstein. You're listening to the Lorne Epstein Show here on 96.7 FM, Arlington, Virginia. Today I'm talking with Donna Murdoch, who is talking to us about how to change the company's processes to bring in new technology. And you were going to go into the next step.
Well, I'll tell you what we're doing right now. And what I've done in the past is a digital transformation program for leaders, but also for not leaders, so that the grass grows.
Is this kind of bookending what we're talking about, or is this the next step?
It should be done simultaneously, because if they're going to identify the needs and they're going to review software and they're going to say, oh, this is what we need, they need to understand what we need.
So we needed to open this can up in the beginning.
You need to have leaders that understand enough to make strategic decisions. And in order for them to do that, they have to have digital literacy. And when we say literacy, we have a certain, but no, it is digital literacy. They need to be able to have conversations in the context of their business about the types of technologies that they need to use, and then decide what they're going to do from there. So that's been where we are right now, is making sure that all of our leaders are able, not just can engage in the discourse of digital literacy, but are able to make decisions based on their knowledge. That's my biggest initiative right now.
Cool. Yeah. And what are some of the pitfalls that folks run into?
Not wanting, these are leaders. They're used to being the best at what they do.
Yeah.
They've been doing it for years. People respect and look up to them and everything. And being able to realize that in this day and age, you have to be able to say, I don't really know how to do that. Can you help me out? In fact, there's a professor named Ed Hess, who we're going to be coming to. He's from UVA, and his book is called Humility is the New Smart.
Yeah.
And it's so appropriate. We're going to have him come in to kick off the next phase of our leadership program, because it's a mindset shift. It's being able to say, I'm okay, I'm going to learn this. I'm used to knowing everything I need to know.
Right.
Although we are a learning organization, I will say we're a research organization by nature, so maybe we had easier stakeholder buy-in than many people would, because when I make this presentation, I'm often asked, how did you get everyone to buy in? It wasn't all that difficult.
Really?
It really wasn't.
Say more about that.
Because we have such smart people. I mean, everyone has smart people, but they're research oriented. They can see. In fact, there was a field trip of the board of directors out to Silicon Valley, because there were a couple board members who said, you don't know what's going on out there. You're doing this, and you should see, and took them out, and evidently like 3/4 of them were on their handhelds Googling every word that was being said in these startups.
So there was definitely a creation of a why for them.
Right.
A creation, you connected the dots.
Right.
It's like they could see what was possible, they could see what was going on out in the world, and they weren't kind of just being led by their noses through this process.
Well, once the board buys in, it just trickles down.
Right. Again,
from there.
leadership, right? When the board buys in, well, then the CEO is going to buy in, and everyone down the line.
Right.
And that's very difficult in an organization.
It is, and it's the
often
most frequent question
the board
I get.
doesn't get interested, or they don't get engaged, and the CEO doesn't really understand it enough, and they don't really want to get engaged, so they kind of let their underlings do it, but then it doesn't get wide doesn't get corporate buy-in.
Well, nobody wants to admit they don't know something, especially when they're the CEO or whatever it is. But if you think of the history of great CEOs, you will always hear that the best thing about them was that they knew what they didn't know.
Yeah.
And that they were able to delegate properly. Now, we don't want delegation, though. In this case, this is not a case that we want them to say, okay, I don't know this, I'm going to hire a great person. Not that we don't want them to hire great people, but we also want them to understand enough. They need to make decisions based on understanding.
So I love that you're so passionate about this. Why is this so important to you?
I have no idea. Because I love it, and I found sort of my calling in connecting. I'm not a 25-year-old who you look at and you think, well, of course you know how to do this. You know, you're of a generation that just automatically knows that. I do not believe in the word millennial. Although you'll hear me say it, because just like I don't believe in the word teach. People know what it means, so I use it. People know what millennial means, so I use it. But I'm like a millennial trapped in a middle-aged person's body. So, and there's many of me, as I found, because we're doing a big reverse mentorship program as part of this transformation.
Well, they came from somewhere.
The
idea is that millennials hold true came from somewhere.
Actually, he took it back. I don't know if...
they came from their parents or their...
sure.
Yeah, who had this. I mean, it's not like a...
But I don't believe they necessarily know more. There's a researcher named Mimi Ito, and she did the seminal MacArthur studies of all youth and media. And she found that 90% of youth use media just the same way we used photo albums, or we would get our driver's license the day we turned 16 and go out with our friends. They don't do that now. They go on whatever their digital platform is and they socialize that way, but it's the same thing. It's just a different way of doing it. Right. 10% are the ones who she calls that hanging around, and she calls 10% the geeking out people. They're the ones who code and remix and do all these interesting things that are, they're the ones who are the coveted people. Now, in an organization, you have those people who are using digital platforms to socialize are quicker to learn new things. There's no question. They're quicker to learn anything digital because they're not intimidated by it. But they're not necessarily coders. Everyone looks at somebody who's of a certain generation and thinks, oh, they can code and they can mix and they can do all these things. They can't all do that. And that expectation has to be managed. Right. So that's the sort of part of it.
Interesting. I love that you're passionate about it. So, what advice would you give to someone working at a corporation that, if they were, some wisdom, I should say, not advice, but wisdom about what are they going to see around the corner if they start to do some digital change? What are some of the road signs?
I think they really need to be, again, that humility is the new smart phrase, is so on target, because they have to get ready to recognize and shift their mindset that they're not going to know everything, and they have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
They have to look at smart in a different way. I'm really smart at critical thinking. I'm really smart at strategic thinking, things that maybe the people who are better with the digital part aren't as good at. Mm-hmm. But the combination of the two is fantastic. So I'm really into that mindset shift, and I will say that the best thing we've done in this whole program I talked about is formed into a game called Mission Possible, and there's teams, and it's this all these moving parts. But the best thing is the reverse mentors, which is taking somebody who has raised their hand and said, I want to help these leaders understand what's going on. And it's an entirely separate, I'll call it a curriculum, but it's an experience for them.
Is this publicly available, like on the web? Can folks listening find it, or is this? No, it's just something you're doing.
We're doing it internally. Yeah. It's the second time we've done it.
Yeah.
And it is the most valuable because those relationships stay ongoing. Even if a program is, say, 3 months, I see months later they're still going out to lunch. And how would someone who's just out of school for a couple years be getting together for lunch with someone who's one down from the CEO or whatever? Right. It's a phenomenal thing to see. And I see them talking about things and what does this mean to our business and how is this going to help? And the minds together. You have the strategic mind, the critical thinking mind, the much more developed in terms of business mind, working with the digital mind who doesn't know that. But the combination is incredible, and it's a wonderful experience for both people.
Cool.
Yeah. it's
Any
great.
parting words before we?
Do a reverse mentorship. Figure out a way to get in touch with me or get in touch with Lorne. I'm happy to give you.
How can folks reach out to you?
Donna Murdoch at spglobal.com.
Cool. Awesome.
There you go.
Donna, thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure.
I really
Thanks
appreciate
for
you
having
sharing.
me.
You've been listening to the Lorne Epstein Show. I'm your host, Lorne Epstein, here on 96.7 FM, Arlington, Virginia. We'll be back next week.